Hello, this is Gary Martin from Glendale Community College. This screencast is from my CIS133DA online class. In this screencast, I'm going to cover the PowerPoints in Unit A along with some other examples that I think will help illustrate what they're talking about. So let's get started here. These PowerPoints are also in Canvas. They should be in the module, so you can access them from there, or you can also download them from the Files tab in Canvas. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time each time I review these each week because my intention is to probably go through the PowerPoint slides with you each week in the video. But the objectives and also the summary information I think speaks for itself. So I'm going to kind of just cover that quickly with a click of a mouse and go to the next screen. One of the things that's really important with IT, whether it be programming or whether it be developing web pages, is that you have some sort of plan. It's better to approach a project with a rifle versus a shotgun. A rifle means you're taking aim, you've got a very good idea of what you're looking for because you've planned in advance to what the outcome needs to look like. The shotgun approach is you start blasting away and the shotgun pellets go in 50 different directions and maybe you might actually hit your target. So we want to try to be as specific as possible early by identifying goals and objectives, target audience, type of website, budget, and timeline. This will be covered in Unit A. We'll spend the bulk of our time learning how to implement web pages, but it's always good to keep this in mind, at least in the back of your mind, as you're developing pages, especially if you're doing it for your own business or for someone else's. This same discussion could be taken to any one of my other programming classes also. Whether it's a website or a program, there should be a plan that you follow. Now, as part of that plan, it should be documented. Also part of that plan would probably include a wireframe or storyboard. Now, basically what this means is that, especially now when you have GUI or graphical user interfaces like with a browser or with most Windows or Apple programs, you're working with the integration of text and graphics. So not only are you working from no longer are you working from a command line at the bottom of the screen, but you're clicking on icons, you're moving, you're dragging, you're dropping. So it's important when you approach a web page that you make some attempt at trying to develop a storyboard or wireframe diagram of how this is going to look. And as you can see, what they've done here is they've sketched out the page on paper. There are some other tools available to you. In fact, if you'd like to try them, I can make them available. One is called Visio. Visio has been a diagramming tool that Microsoft has had for years. And via our Imagine agreement, you can download that for free. I would say that we probably don't use it much in this class. We do use it in other classes that I teach. And if you want to give it a look over, kick the tires, let me know when I can see that you have Imagine access to it. This storyboard has got a couple of different names. We call this also a hierarchy chart. And basically what it shows is the relationship between the different pages. So you have a main page that potentially could call other pages, about pages, contact me, etc. All of this should be allowed in advance too, just so that you're not missing anything when you develop this website. Again, take aim, come up with a plan, implement the plan so that when you're finished, you have something which you know is going to work and not require a lot of rework. We're going to spend a lot of time on HTML or Hypertext Markup Language and CSS, which is a style, cascading style sheets. This is the HTML part is how we structure the bones of our page. The CSS is how we style the page with graphics, boxes, colors, fonts, etc. Some of this is available both from the structure and from the styling in HTML and CSS. They kind of complement each other, but typically HTML is the place we want to go to develop the basic construction or bones of the page, the superstructure, the what we're going to hang everything on, and the CSS is more about styling. With HTML, you're going to be working with tags, where you're going to take and identify with tags mixed in with text certain things that you want to have happen with this page. You may want text to be in the header. You want text to be in the footer. You may want the body. You might want a table. You might want a header. You might want a paragraph. We'll spend a lot of time learning about different tags in HTML. And the first tool we'll learn about is the Doctype tag and the HTML tag. And I'm going to show you some of this a little bit later in an example using Notepad++. The basic structure of the document is going to be a series of tags. And again, this is going to be kind of a small view in this presentation. Open up the PowerPoint in a viewer, it'll become much larger. But these tags will identify what you want the page to project or render that particular section of the document. You know what? This might be a good time to flip over to Notepad++. So for example, this may be a little bit easier to see. This is a file that I created in Notepad++. It's called Test1. I will leave it out there in the Files section under Unit A for you to look at. But essentially all it is the Doctype tag on top, which tells the browser what kind of file this is, and then the HTML tags below. Now all HTML files or all web pages, which are HTML files, have to have an HTML tag in the beginning and the end. Okay, the tag is reflected with an arrow, left arrow, the tag name or right arrow, and then it also has to be concluded with a slash in the tag name. So essentially what that means is that all of this information here is inside the tag called HTML. You'll also see an HTML tag called head, an HTML tag called body, and then you'll see a closing head, closing body. I've also included another HTML tag called H1. Now, this particular IDE, Notepad++, which I'd encourage you to download and use, has what's called syntax coloring. So providing I save this file in an HTML or HTML format, it will take and color the syntax or the typing on my page, and if anything is incorrect, it will help me flag it in red. And there we go, we got some red text there. Now, this is jumping ahead a little bit, but as long as I'm in Notepad, I'll show you from here what you would want to do next. Once you have typed some of the HTML in, you'll want to test it in a browser, because HTML needs to be rendered by your browser, whether it be Chrome. I typically use Chrome for most of my stuff, but Firefox is also good. Internet Explorer and also Edge works fine. There's also other browsers too. But if you're using Notepad++, if you hit the Run pull down, you can select Chrome, and what this will do is automatically launch Chrome and render your page in the browser, except it's not. Now, the problem with HTML is, since it's not really a programming language, it's a markup language, it doesn't tell you too much when things go wrong. Okay, so what I want to do now is go back to my editor, and again, the Notepad++ screen did indicate there was a problem right in this area here. And the problem is, for every tag you create in HTML, there's a beginning tag and an ending tag. And the beginning tag was not terminated with the arrow. Notice how text is now white. It has been fixed. So if I save this, go back to my browser screen and just reload it, and again, this is off your screen, but I hit the reload button, I now appear to have something on my screen. One of the problems that a lot of students have with HTML is that if there is an error, it doesn't really give you much information. Okay, we will learn a little bit later on how to get more information to find out where the problem is, but initially it's not going to tell you too much. So I would say, let me lower this some. If you have a problem with your page and it's just a white screen, and there is a problem, there's a good chance if you went back to Notepad++, you'd be able to find out what that error was as it was interpreting the text in your HTML file. Now, for this to work correctly, you have to save the file as HTML. So when you do a file save as, you're going to give it a name, but then on the file type, you're going to have a lot of choices here. And the choice that you want to make here, or you select, is the hypertext markup language file. And if you save that, you will find that the syntax coloring will change, and you will get some help in finding some of these errors. So for this, the important thing here is to look at the HTML tags, which have the arrows beginning and proceeding, and then also see how they're terminated with an ending tag. That's the important thing to see at this point, and also that it may be difficult sometimes to find some of your errors in HTML. Let's continue on with the PowerPoints. As we continue, here is a little more information about the body and head tag, which I just explained earlier. These define sections of your HTML document. Head speaks to header, body speaks to the body. As we get deeper into the class, you'll also find there's also some other tags to assist us in further segmenting off our page so that we can organize it. And this is what HTML does so well. It provides a skeleton, the bones, the superstructure, the structure behind our page. The CSS, which we'll learn later, will provide the styling or the coloring or what somebody you may think is the sexiness or the the interactivity that's involved with the web page based on graphics and motion and sound, etc. I'm going to continue through some of these slides because I think they're probably just as easily read than they are covered again by me talking your way through them. Another common tag that you'll find, two common tags other than the ones that I just showed you, were a title tag and a paragraph tag. So I'm going to go back up here into my example that I had done earlier, and inside my head block I'm going to create a title tag which will give me the title in the bar on top of the browser. And we're going to call this test 1 because that's all that is. And for every HTML tag that I start, I have to terminate it. So here I am terminating the title tag with a /title. The HT1 tag was just talked about on that slide, but the one that isn't here yet is the paragraph side, which is just a paragraph of text. So it's basically just used for creating a paragraph of text. Again, it has to be terminated at the end. If I save this and I now go into the web page that I had earlier, okay, let me see if I can get us over there, and I reload the page, I now have a title up here in the tab bar that I created with a title tag. There's my test, which came from the H1 tag, and then below here is a paragraph or some text that I enclosed in a paragraph tag. All right, let's go back to our PowerPoints now. And again, the PowerPoints are just summaries of what's covered in the book, so please make sure you read the book and follow through with that, because it does a really nice job in giving you a lot of examples on how this stuff works. What I hope to do is supplement what's here with some of my own examples. All right, program comments. And a program comment is used to basically let the author of the page simply put something inside the file that someone who has access to the file can look at and gain additional information or documentation about the page. So I'm going to put a comment here that says this is a sample page for, for my CIS133DA class. Now the thing about comments is they are an arrow, an exclamation point, slash, and the 2 dashes and the arrow at the end. And the thing about them is that comments are visible inside the file if you're to look at it through an editor or if you go inside the View Sources option, but they will not appear on the page themselves. They're simply there to give the person looking at your file a little information about what that file is supposed to do. It's documentation. Okay? Let's go on here. I've added a comment to mine. I've shown you how to preview your page through Notepad++. I can also use Window Explorer or in one of the Apple or Linux products that have file associations. Probably go into the file viewer, double click on it, and because it's an HTML file, it should automatically be displayed inside a browser. Okay. I've showed you the preview. You really don't have to be involved with web servers at this point. The web server is ultimately where your pages will be housed if they're going to be available over the internet. Right now, as I'm working on this page is only available to me for display on my computer. If I was to make this page available for everybody to see, I would have to put it on a special folder that you have in your GCC H drive called public.www. Now, web servers and some of the stuff we can do with web servers will be covered a little bit in this class, but it's really separate classes completely. Ones that you can take at GCC, and it's actually a career path. So for now anyways, it's just important to understand that your HTML file can be run locally from your PC, but ultimately if you want this to be available for anybody on the internet, you would have to put it on an internet server. Many times people have accounts with GoDaddy, for example, and they provide a hosting service or they provide an internet server where you can place your files to make them visible across the internet. GCC has a student server that does this, and again, it's in a special folder called public.www, which we will talk about later in the class. All right, let's continue here. Certainly, most of our phones now have browsers that can display HTML files. We will spend some time periodically talking about how to develop web pages for mobile devices. I would say go into your browser. Now that's a little tricky. Again, you'd have to put it in public.www, and then you'd be able to see it on your cell phones. For now, it might be a little bit more advanced, and we'll have a video topic on that when we're a little bit farther into the class. All right, the summary pages, those you can read on your own. And what I would say for now is get Notepad++ downloaded. Use Text Wrangler if you're on the Apple machine. There are a whole bunch of other programs you can use for web page development. Look at the resources I've left you inside the Canvas shell. And if you have any questions, please let me know.